You know, someone hit me up on Twitter late last night talking about how they feel my pain because the Blazers are doing just about as bad as the Pistons are this year. And we're comfortably over the halfway mark of the season now, so I can say with 100% certainty that these two teams have been severely disappointing to me this season. The Portland Trail Blazers and the Detroit Pistons. Now, if you've been here for a while now, you know that the Detroit Pistons are my favorite team and Damian Lillard is one of my favorite players. So for a while I kept telling myself that both of these teams would get it together eventually, you know? I mean, both were in the playoffs last year and both have essentially the same core as they did last year as well. So you would expect them to do just about as good, if not better, than last year, right? Well, obviously not. So before I get into the recaps from last night's games, I want to talk about why I think the Blazers have fell off and what they need to do in order to get back on the track. I would talk about the Pistons too, but that had to be a completely separate video for all the things I have to say about them. So the Portland Trail Blazers have had winning seasons for 3 years in a row now, and last year they surprised everyone. After they lost their entire starting lineup over the offseason except Damian Lillard, many people were expecting them to be a lottery team. However, after a slow start, not as slow as this one, they finished with a 44-38 record, which landed them the 5th seed in the Western Conference. They'd then go on to beat the injury-riddled Clippers in the first round before being ousted by the Warriors in 5 games. But if you're a Blazers fan, that was a very successful season for you. CJ McCollum broke out and formed one of the deadliest backcourts in the NBA with Damian Lillard. Things were looking really bright for Portland. And then in the offseason, they really didn't lose anyone of value. They even re-signed Allen Crabbe and landed Evan Turner, even if they did have to overpay for both. But still, basically the same team with another year to grow together. However, so far this season they've had a couple of glaring holes that's causing their downfall: rebounding and defense. When it comes to simply rebounding the basketball, the Blazers leave much to be desired. Right now they ranked 20th in the league in that category, grabbing only 50 a game, which is confusing because last year they were one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA at 54 a game, which was good for the 4th best rebounding team in the league. So the drop off in that category is kind of puzzling. The second area of concern is their defense, where they are ranked 27th in the NBA, giving up 110 points per game. Now, as bad as that is, it isn't too much of a surprise considering they weren't a great defensive team last year either. I mean, they were better as in the fact they were only giving up 104 points per game, but that's not necessarily anything to brag about either. And with them giving up 104 points per game last year, they were ranked number 21 in points allowed per game. Taking into account that if they gave up the same 104 points per game they did last year, they would be ranked number 13th in opponents' points per game this year. So with the same defensive numbers from last year, they would be ranked number 13th this year. Keep that in mind. And the same story basically applies for their offense. Well, kinda. Let me explain. Alright, so this year the Blazers are averaging 107 points per game compared to their 105 points per game last year. However, that does not mean they moved up the statistical ladder in that category. They were 5th highest scoring team overall last year with their 104 points per game. And now they're ranked number 8 this year, even though they're scoring more points per game at 107. So what does that mean for the Blazers? Well, they have the same roster as last year, so everything I mentioned just points to one hard truth: they simply haven't improved as much as the other teams did this year offensively. In the league where everyone is scoring more points, like I said, they're better in the scoring department than they were last year, but their ranking has dropped. And that also is proven by the fact that basically every NBA team is allowing more points per game on the defensive end. So your defense was already pretty bad last year, and your offense compared to others just hasn't improved as much. With that formula, then you're bound to take a hit in the wins column. The good news is though that there's quite a simple and straightforward fix to this problem. Simply to get better. I know that's like a no-duh statement, but it's really the only answer. Now, whether or not they can do any internal growth as a team or need to look for outside help is only something they know. I'm not personally at their practices or in the locker room after games, so I don't know exactly what's going on with the team, but I'd imagine acquiring a legitimate big man couldn't hurt too much. I know Portland fans would love to see someone like Nerlens Noel lace up for them, a young athletic big man who can protect the paint, grab some rebounds, and even give you a little bit on the offensive end too, basically helping the team in all the areas of need. However, the problem with that is their lack of assets. Teams aren't necessarily lining up to trade for Evan Turner, especially considering his contract, or Myers Leonard. So what do you have to give up besides draft picks that would basically be good for a late team pick depending on if they make the playoffs or not? Which the basic premise of trading for someone like Nerlens Noel would be so the Portland Trail Blazers can make the playoffs. So do you give up someone like Allen Crabbe? Well, I mean, of course you would if the trade was offered. I mean, his scoring would be missed, but I'm sure a player like Nerlens Noel impacts their team more than Allen Crabbe does. But realistically, is a package of Crabbe and a draft pick enough to get Noel? I highly doubt it. Other teams that will most likely be able to put together a much more attractive package overall will be in the biddings for Noel as well. So now what? Well, while a player like Noel would be nice, there are some other big men in the NBA who might not be the defender that Noel is, but are still pretty good rebounds and even better on the offensive end. One player that comes to mind is Greg Monroe. As a Pistons fan, I know quite a bit about Monroe, considering this is where he spent the first 5 years of his career. He's a defensive liability, sure. He's not going to protect the rim at all, but he is a very good rebounder and a great post scorer, which helps the Blazers at least in those areas of concern. And honestly, a trade like this makes sense for both teams. If there were to be an Allen Crabbe for Greg Monroe swap, it would give the Portland Trailblazers the great rebounder and a post scorer that they really don't have right now. It would also give the Bucks a perimeter threat that they desperately need. You could also take a look at someone like Nikola Vucevic, basically a player cut from the same cloth as Monroe, considering he's a pretty good rebounder, a great scorer, but not the best defender. But I think someone like him would come at a slightly higher price tag. And that's it. That's my opinion and analysis on the Portland Trailblazers' current situation. Their problem is that they basically stayed the same while almost the entire NBA improved. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. What do you think they should do? But now it's time to get into the daily recap portion of this video. Speaking of the Blazers, they lost a close game last night to the curryless Golden State Warriors, which is a bit disappointing. I mean, Green was in foul trouble and really wasn't playing well. He had more turnovers than assists last night, and Thompson was struggling with his shot as well. The Blazers did almost pull it off at the buzzer though, but Evan Turner was just a bit off on the shot. 113 to 111 is your final score. Kevin Durant with 33 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists for the Warriors, and CJ McCollum led the Blazers with 28 points. Russell Westbrook tallied another triple-double with 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists, but he shot 7 of 26 from the field. Yikes. And the Cavs used a big second quarter to build a lead that they never relinquished. 29 points, 10 assists for Kyrie, and 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists for LeBron. No Kevin Love for Cleveland as he was out with back spasms, but they still get the 107-91 win over the Thunder. Quadruple overtime, folks. Reminds me of the Bulls and Pistons quadruple overtime game from last year. It was the Hawks who eventually came out on top behind Paul Millsap's 37 points, 19 rebounds, and 61 minutes. I know he's happy to have the day off today. Carmelo Anthony tallied 45 points though in his 46 minutes on 18 of 36 shooting from the field for the Knicks. I might have to make a video on the Wizards soon, because they've been flat out impressive for about the past month or so. They got their 4th straight win last night with their 107-94 win over the Pelicans. They're currently 5th in the Eastern Conference, only a game out of the 4th seed and 2 games out of the 3rd after their 2-8 start this season. 18 points and 19 assists for John Wall, and 27 points on 11 of 16 shooting from the field for Bradley Beal. Davis did try his best for the Pelicans though. 36 points, 17 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks for the Brow. James Harden must have used up all his powers in his 50-point triple-double from the other night. He really struggled today and only shot 3 of 17 from the field to go along with his 8 assists and 8 turnovers. And of course, when James Harden plays like that, you can expect the Pacers to get the win. 33 points from PG-13 and 17 points and 15 assists for Jeff Teague as the Pacers get the 120-101 win over the Rockets and advance to 25-22 on the year. DeMar DeRozan returned from his sprained ankle yesterday, and the Raptors came up short to the Orlando Magic. I really wish Norman Powell would get more minutes. He was playing really well for the Raptors when DeMar DeRozan was out, but when DeMar DeRozan came back last night, he only logged 13 minutes. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks for Vucevic, and DJ Augustine had 21 points off the bench for the Magic. DeRozan logged 22 points in his return, and Kyle Lowry at 33 for the Raptors, as they now fall to the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. No Embiid for Philly, and Wade and Butler were both back in the starting lineups for Chicago, as they got the 121-108 win. Jimmy Butler followed up his 1 of 13 shooting from the field performance with a great all-around game. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals for Butler. Who saw this one coming? Definitely not me. The Mavericks edged out the Spurs last night in a 105-101 win. And Steph Curry didn't play last night because his brother Seth Curry drained all of his powers. 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists for Seth, and 19 points for Harrison Barnes. Kawhi Leonard led the Spurs with 24 points and 7 rebounds. And that about wraps up all the action of the Day 97 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season, and now it's time to get into the Player of the Day. Yesterday you guys selected Stephen Curry and his 43 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists as your player of the day. And here are today's candidates. Kevin Durant, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Jimmy Butler, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. John Wall, 18 points and 19 assists. LeBron James, 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. I gave a 5th option today before his valiant effort last night. Paul Millsap in his 37 points, 19 rebounds, and his 61 minutes played. Like always, you guys can go vote on the Amino Hardwood NBA app. The link to the poll will be in the description box below. Other than that though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like on it if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more daily NBA videos. And until tomorrow, keep getting the Buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!